Armstrong. Welcome.
Thank you, Alfred.
Right. So, you have an interesting story. You are somebody that I've known, I think, for a very long time, over 10 years now. And it's inspiring to see where you have gotten to in life. But we want to take a look at how it all began for you. Where did you grow up? Who are your parents? Where are they, basically?
So I was born and raised in Ashiaman, where I lived most part of my life. I started my basic education in Ashiaman um, Basic School, which is a government school, where I did most part of my studies. And before I had opportunity to write the BSc, um, an uncle of mine actually told my parents to take me to like a private school because he's not hoping that I can pass the BSc. And that's how I eventually left the government school to a semi-private school and put it that way, to see if I could get a chance to pass my BSc. I mean, I got to the primary school and the private school, and it wasn't the best. So for me, I really struggled because the
Mm.
standard of education in the government school and that of the private school was like, you could imagine. So I really struggled. But I met, this guy called Jeffrey, who was, one of the brightest guys, which well, I use this opportunity to thank him for, helping me out when I came and struggling. Yeah. So I met this Jeffrey guy who was, on top of the class, and he decided to help me. So I think from there, he started helping me build my foundation both in science and mathematics. Um, and that's when I started gaining a little momentum, even though I was not the brightest in the class. At least first 20 they are good inside. It's so rare. Yeah. But like with time, I just associated myself with them, those who are at the top, and I kept learning from them. And before we wrote BC, I wasn't the very best. I wasn't, but yeah, it was good for me. And I had opportunity to write BC, and yeah, that was it for me in Ashaman.
Great. So, basically, per everything you said, you were not the brightest growing up in primary school and everything, but then the turning point came around, let's say junior high school, where you met your
Yes,
friend Jeffrey.
Jeffrey,
Okay,
yes.
so I understand also that you were in Achimota School. Why the decision to choose Achimota School amongst all the other senior high schools?
Well, this is a very funny story because I never chose Akiwata school. So I wanted to go to Chimo Senior High School. So initially,
Wow.
when we asked to choose the schools, I chose Chimo. For all my schools, I chose Chimo Grammar School, um, Medas, Ulams, Ashasek, to be very honest, I didn't know there were schools actually outside Accra, like because of my, your neighborhood, I had
Yeah.
little exposure, right? So um, I knew of Percent, but I wasn't confident I'll get Percent. But, for Chimo, I wanted to go to Chimo. But I would say, fortunately for me, we are asked to reselect the schools again. Then one of my teachers selected Achimota School. He said, "Oh, it's a good school, And there was the Jeffrey guy also going to Achimota School. And I was like, oh, Jeffrey's going to Achimota School. And that means that's a good school. And they chose it for me, you know.
Wow.
So for me, it was like I really wanted to go to Achimota School and end up in Achimota School. But it was like kind of a suggestion that I got, and I got it. Even before I got to know that it's a prestigious school, yeah. And that's how I landed in Achimota School.
Well, it looks like your primary days were different from the high school days because I knew that you were a fantastic student in high school. You scored
Yeah.
8 A's in the WASI in senior high school. So tell us, from all your struggles in primary school with studying and all that, meeting Jeffrey in junior high school and coming to Achimota and doing so well, what do you think was a learning habit you picked up, or what did you change about yourself that made you a fantastic student in high school?
Okay, so I'll say three things that really worked out for me. right? First was discipline. Trying to be very committed to the things I want to do. And I had a plan. So being able to stick to the plan was, no, it's sometimes very difficult when you draw out a plan like, okay, this first semester, I want to get this number of A's. I want to run this, yeah. And trying to stick to that kind of plan, you actually need discipline, like you actually need discipline to do that. I mean, sometimes we get motivated by people and their words they win, but in order to be able to achieve those things, I think discipline played a major role in it. And secondly, one thing that also helped me the most was association, right? Finding the right company in school. I'll say for me, that was the biggest thing that actually happened to me at water school, finding the right people to associate myself with. So I had people like Bassett, Anderson, Rahim, and the likes who were around. That will always encourage you to learn, or you always see them learn, so you also be pushed to learn. And for me, it was kind of interesting because people say that like I'm trying to, compete with either Bassett or Anderson, but it was completely different from my side because I was looking at it from the point that I want to leverage on these guys, where they have to be able to also attain a certain height. Otherwise I will be humble enough to go and say, hey, help me with this, because if you're in that competitive spirit, they'll say, oh, healthy competition. Your whole mind is, how to beat somebody in class, or instead of like trying to learn from the other person. So first, trying to acknowledge that, no matter how smart you are, somebody also smarter than you, and you have to give that accolades to the person so they can learn from the person. So that was it for me, and for me, learning from them was the best for me, and not like I'm chasing after them as people see from outside, like, man, this guy's working so hard to beat them. But for me, it was, attaching myself to them to learn as much as I can learn from them. So that really helped, because I learned a lot from them. They helped me with a lot of foundation. And for me, it also counts my success. I think if there's no way I would talk about like, passing through another school without forgetting all the people that, I once stood on their shoulders to make some history in that school. Yes.
All you are saying is that being humble enough to learn from people who supposedly are better than you or more advanced in a certain area was very, very key for you and also shaping you up for the successes that you chalked in high school.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I think that really helped me.
Great. So finally, the WASSE came in and you scored 8 A's. What was the feeling like, first, for yourself? Did you expect to score 8 A's? Secondly, for your family? And then thirdly, for your primary school teachers who didn't know you as an 8 A's student?
Okay, so I'll start this way. I was excited after the varsity results were out. For me, it was a great opportunity, and to be the first, let's say, college student in my family, to also go to such a prestigious school and to come out like successful was something I was happy about. If I thought that I was expecting such results, then probably I was lying, because I know I was working hard, but like I don't know the outcome. Like I just wanted the best. So, but it was coming out as a surprise. It was coming out as like, somebody with, Thanksgiving, like a heart full of Thanksgiving, like thanking God for what has happened. Because anything could have happened in the examination. So for me, I was happy, but most part of it, I was very grateful to God that, all the money that my parents actually spent, because they didn't have. So for them to spend that much on me in a school like another school was a big deal. And I think that was something that made them extremely happy because they could see the fruits of their labor, and that was something that they could, smile about. And they could feel like, okay, our investment didn't go to waste. And for me, that was what was also pushing me as well to make sure that, yeah, I bring something good home, yeah. So yeah, it was a very happy, day for me. Yeah, for that short.
What about that teacher who actually chose Ashimoto School for you?
Well, well, to be very honest, right? So normally my when I was in middle school, my semester term reports actually passed through my JSS school. So they used to, open it when it gets there before even my
Oh,
parents
wow.
get to know it, right? In fact, if my parents, my mother, she see my report, probably she might not understand what's going on in there, right? That's what they have to explain to her that okay, all this was
Yeah.
happening there. She can, yeah. So normally the school opens it and they go to see what I was doing, how my performance was going, um, and they were happy, like consistently the whole time I was there. So the school was extremely happy when they heard that I made this kind of success during the WASI. And well, that teacher unfortunately was not there when I finished my WASI. I left the
Oh,
school. Yeah, I left the school
yeah.
to another place. Yeah, but he was very happy when he found out. Yeah.
Great. And then once you came, you did so well. You went to KNUST to read civil engineering. Didn't you get the usual pressure to do medicine after scoring fantastic results in the WASI? And why the decision actually to do civil engineering?
Okay. So I'll say that there was that pressure, right? Not from my parents per se, but from other family members. It was like, oh, your child is smart, let him become the first doctor in our family, those kind of stuff, right? But my family, my mother and my father didn't really care much about what I really wanted to do. They were very supportive in any decision I wanted to make. But choosing civil itself had a very unique story, right? Um, which I believe that it's happening to most high school students because we are not privy to most of the things that goes on in tertiary or college. So during the time that we were supposed to select the courses for tertiary, I wasn't ready, to do medicine because I didn't like biology. Even though I could read, I just didn't like biology. So it wasn't in my plans. But I wanted to read something like mathematics or statistics. But
Mm,
for some reason, I was strongly discouraged not to do it, right? So I was just left in limbo, right? I shouldn't do statistics, I shouldn't do mathematics. Then what else could I do, right? And I didn't know of any engineering course. Okay, to be very honest, I knew of electrical engineering, right? And that was the only engineering like I've heard of. Um, so if I was supposed to choose anything, I was going to choose electrical engineering, but I didn't know much about it. But then again, Bassett was going to do civil engineering. And he happens to know somebody who did civil engineering and he knows doing very well and all that, right? And for me, I don't know what civil is about, but I trust that Bassett is doing a good decision because for every I mean this guy, everything has
yeah.
been good, right? So I was like, okay, I will go ahead and choose civil. But should I go to civil and I'm struggling? I think Bassett will be there to help me, right? And that was
Yeah.
the main reason why I chose civil, not because I knew what civil was all about or I could, But the other said, if I'm given a chance to choose another course, would have done civil? Probably, maybe yes. Probably, probably I was going to do my statistics because I was not educated very well. I was not given a privilege. I was not explained to staff very well when I was in high school. They condemned so many things and me. But yeah, I don't think I've also regretted doing civil. Yeah. So I think you should know who you follow because if you're following them blindly and you know that okay, they can do something good, then you know that their decision also makes a good impact in your life. Yeah, that's why I ended up in civil.
Yeah. So in the university as well, you scored first class. You're one of the brightest students in your class. I mean, I think the trajectory of your story is interesting. Started a little bit slowly in primary school,
Yeah.
junior high school, peaked in high school, SSS, did so well, and then university as well. You had fantastic results. You became a teaching assistant. What were some of the things you saw with the students when you became a teaching assistant that you think that many students should guard against, else they wouldn't do so well like you did in the university?
Okay. So especially I'll say like first year students, right? Well, I was a TA. Most of the first years, you know, they were not doing so well, even though they were, bright from high school. And the problem was basically, how should I put it? some sense of belonging, right? So
Mm.
body ways to percent feel like, no, 100% where, like, I want to find people that want to percent associated with, right? And, for once and frankly, I don't care about them, right? And probably the smartest guy in the class might be some percent, maybe a wild guy or pampered guy, okay? But this sense of belonging or sticking together, like, oh, hey girls, I'm just by myself. I want to do myself. I want to prove that I'm also good. And I think first that's what everybody trying to do. I want to prove that they are very good. And they don't want to, work together as a team. And I think that's what, make most of them not perform, right? Trying to do everything by yourself. But I think in first year, I didn't take that step. In first year, I actually formed a group study with some colleagues of mine that I think that went a long way, to define our success,
Mm.
in civil. Yeah. So I believe that if these students could form study groups with people, either from their own school or from other schools, and try not to be independent, try to do everything by themselves, but also try to learn from others and use their spare time for other things. I think that was going to help them to succeed a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and also you've been one person who has been very, very supportive of your high school's national science and math quiz team. Personally, yourself, you were a part of your high school's 2013 national science and math quiz team. After high school, you decided to come back to the school to help groom the students, and you had some amazing results, especially in 2015. Why the decision to come back to the high school?
Okay. So I would say that um, I was also helped. I also had seniors who completed coming home, right? And I believe that they coming back, right? Even though we have teachers, that were helping us academically, I believe that their impact, during their time over there was also very, very helpful, right? And I believe that it is also just good or kind enough to also pay it forward. The kindness I've
Mm.
received from, my predecessor, I want to pay it forward. So I felt like it is some duty on me to always come back and also let them benefit the kind of things I benefited whilst also as students. And for me, that what gives me great joy to see that I'm also making the same impact as I received. Yeah.
Do you think that any student in high school who may not necessarily have come from some of the brightest or supposedly very, very good primary schools like Morning Star and co, do you think that success in high school requires one to be, let's say, naturally gifted, or just anyone at all can achieve the level of success that you achieved just by working hard?
Yeah. So I don't think okay. I don't think you have to be a natural, like maybe it's a natural shark to be able to attain great success. I've seen people that supposedly they are natural shark but still failed. But I believe that it's the kind of structures that one puts in place. So anybody at all, I believe anybody at all, no matter your background, you can attain the same kind of success that we have been able to achieve by just putting in some strategy of some plans that can help, especially um, finding the right association, working with the right people. It doesn't matter. There are so much smart people in the school. Ask yourself with them. Try and learn with them. Try to tap into their blessing. Just learn from them, and also have the discipline to also work hard. Because it's not easy to be consistently trying to become better of yourself, because it's a very difficult thing for you to do. It's like trying to become the better version of yourself every single time, right? So you need that discipline to always say, okay, I want to wake up every single morning to work hard. So once you try to find a good group to be in, once you have decided to be disciplined, right, and you're trying to set, your own goals and plans for yourself, I think it's going to help you a lot. Especially, I think most people, forget to set goals and plan for themselves, right? And I think there's a popular saying that, when you fail to plan, you plan to fail, right? It's very important because if you don't plan for yourself, you lose a lot of attention trying to focus on other processes instead of focusing on how you have to grow bit by bit. But once you have a plan, you know that, okay, it's a progress thing you're going through. So I've been able to achieve one step, which is the next step. And you don't really lose focus because others are actually achieving or they're not. Yeah.
Now, there's one thing that bothers me a lot. Many students who are from very low income homes, meaning that their parents do not have so much to support them even in school. They come to high school with their boxes empty or just with a few things. They're hungry. They are not the brightest of students. How does such a student cope? Because one, he's thinking about not having enough to eat. Two, he's also thinking about not being the smartest. He's seeing people in his class having it so easy to understand certain concepts, whereas they are struggling day in and day out to understand the same concepts. How can such a child who is struggling academically and from a low income home, he's thinking about home. He's thinking about he's called his dad or his mom to send him or her some money. They are not sending the money. And that same person is also struggling in school. How can they diffuse all of these to say distractions and focus on school and also succeed?
Okay, I think one is accepting your situation, right? Because people fail to accept the situation they find themselves in and pretend to be who they are not. But in high school, if you can really accept your situation that, hey, I'm from this background, the daddy there for chocolate chip, where nobody's eating the bulus or the cake or whatever, you want to eat it, right? Because you don't put your troubles. Because when you go and also start rushing the food, you come back hungry, right? But at least the school tries to feed you 3 times a day, right? So even with that, that should not, make you hungry. You don't also go to dining all the 3 times a day. Probably your job is supposed to supplement the food you eat in dining. Not to say that the food you get in dining is the best of food and whatever, right? But at least it's something that can, sustain you, and put it that way, right? So one, trying to accept who you are, trying to accept your situation, and trying to compromise that, okay, I might not have the best of things, but I think I can compromise and have this food for some time now. And when I'm done with school, I'm gone. But let me have this it's just 3 years, 4 years, I'll be done and I'll go. Right. So that was one, accepting yourself and who they are. Secondly, to be struggling in class, sometimes it's no fault of yours. And I think at any point in time, even the brightest student can also struggle in a topic or two. Right. But the question is, how do they overcome those struggles? Because you don't start a topic by just knowing it every time, right? You start and struggle, but you get to know it. So it's a process, right? Nobody starts learning something and gets to know it. Maybe they open a book. We all start not knowing it. But the problem is, okay, first off, people have very short learning curve, whilst others have very long learning curve, right? So that's where the difference is. It's not because you can't learn it, probably have a very long learning curve, right? And as such, it all means that your foundation is very poor because of a background, you didn't have a good foundation. That's why your learning curve is very high. The best way to shorten those learning curve, right, is to let people help you because you can't do it by yourself, right? So once you understand that, hey, I'm not the brightest, man, I'll always be at your door. I'll always be in your house. I'll always be by you. Like anytime I'm just by you, right? Just to learn, and that is how you can also reduce your learning curve or make some of these things much shorter for you to be able to comprehend some of the things. I think in all, if you're able to do these, both trying to accept yourself financially and trying to accept who you are, forget about the fact that maybe you're bright in your school and now you're struggling in high school or whatever, but trying to accept, okay, this is my current situation and actually need help, right? Is the first step in getting help, right? Trying to accept that you need help. And I think there are always nice people around to help you. Yeah.
Great. Now let's move forward. After the university, you found yourself in the US for graduate school. How did that happen? How was the application process? Why the decision even to go outside the country anyway?
Okay. So for me, initially, I wanted to be a civil engineer, work in some consultancy in Ghana, and I'll be fine, right? But I think of my third year in civil engineering, we had to do a compulsory, how's it called, internship. So one friend of mine, Prosper, it was like, the way the system had, we have to leave the country. I was like, oh, I mean, I think I'll be cool. I'll be cool, once I get a good job in Ghana, I'll be fine, right? So I don't think I was planning for graduate school when I was in third year, right? He was the guy who was dropping constantly in my head that, oh, there are better opportunities outside Ghana. Just look at this material. There are better opportunities outside Ghana. So then he introduced me to graduate school. He told me that, hey, there's something called GRE. There's something called this. You have to learn that. So I said, okay, I'll take the bait and learn for this GRE, write a GRE, and also start the graduate school application. So we started around fourth year. I started learning the GRE, and I learned the GRE and I wrote it. The scores were really good. Then I started applying, and the application process can be very tedious, extremely tedious because you're actually competing with people all over the world and not necessarily people in Ghana or even people in your class. So your grades might not just be enough to get you in, right? There are other factors that have to come to play in order to get this funding. I chose a very different approach from the normal, even though it was very aggressive, but I felt like that gave the results, right? I actually went to the school's websites, look at the professors I want to work with, took their numbers, and started calling them. So I call you on phone, and I've already written down in maybe a book your research, the things you do, your like last publication and stuff, right? And I start communicating with you, expressing my interest in your research. And I read this paper of yours, and I think I like it. I think I can improve this part of the work if I'm given the chance. That could be another publication to your record. Yeah. And for me, it was very hard because that's something you don't know. But I said this way, I don't lose anything from calling the person. It's either a yes or no. But I think I stand to gain more because the person might not have seen anybody that aggressive wanting to do the research work. So it comes up like this person actually means more because you can send an email. It's not like, okay, I received so much emails. But for the person to go ahead to call, maybe the person is actually so passionate about it, right? So it was the extra communication I want to put out there, right? And no, it's fine for me, but I felt like going the extra mile and doing the calling, actually increased my rate of success for most of the schools, right? Which was different from where. So yeah, and that's how come I got opportunity here. So I would say the process was easy, it was tedious, but yeah, you have to grind it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And currently you are an assistant professor,
Yeah.
very young. And do you think it's some sort of a very high responsibility on you being so young and with such a huge title?
Well, it's a very high responsibility on my part, right? Because I was the first of all, I want to thank God for this opportunity because it's a very tough opportunity to get, right? Normally, getting a job in consultancy, like you are done with school, getting a job in the industry, it's quite easier than getting an academic position, right? So that's probably how difficult it is because they open it once, unless a faculty member dead or they are having more people coming to the school, so they need an extra effort, like extra support or something before they open a position. And so they even open a position is very specific, with specific skills and requirements. So it makes it very hard, very competitive to get. And normally, people are in the queue with so many years of experience postdoc. The dynamics are very, and for somebody who is just a fresh graduate from PhD to be able to get such opportunity, yeah, I think God did a lot. Yeah, even though I worked hard to put myself there, I feel like there was a grace. Grace was played a role in it. But at the end of the day, it put a lot of responsibilities on me because I'm coming in with some less experience, than others that might have done like 6 or 7 years of research somewhere in some research institution, learned as right and just coming fresh with less experience, have to succeed at any cost, right? So it puts a lot of pressure on me, but I believe that with God, all things are possible. We're able to handle this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what have you learned from your journey? I mean, looking at yourself, primary school in a very government school. And for those who do not know, being in a government school, primary school, government school in Ghana is can be very, very tough.
Yeah,
Unless you are exceptionally bright, chances are that you might not do so well.
yeah,
Or if you don't get the right support, you might just not do so. And it wouldn't be a surprise because nobody expects you to actually even do so well. But
definitely. Yeah.
looking at your journey, casting your mind back maybe 20 years ago, where you started from, in the neighborhood you began, and all of a sudden you are an assistant professor in a very high level institution in the US.
Yeah.
What do you think are the lessons you have learned? And what do you think those watching, those in high school who aspire to be just like you or even better than you can learn from?
Well, I think I think I've said it 1,000 times, but I'll say it again because it's very important. Finding the right association, you know,
Mm,
getting the right people have actually helped me to this point, right? So having the right people to surround you because I mean, that's your like immediate environment, and they can have greater influence in your life, right? And two, having a plan. I always try to have a plan because it really helps me a lot to know where I want to go and my current standpoint. So once I know, okay, I'm at this point and this is where I want to go, that I can know the difference or the things that are required of me to do before I get to that point, right? Thirdly, I need discipline to be able to accomplish those things, right? So then, okay, I'm at this point, I'm at point A, I want to get to point B. But these are the things that I need to do in order to get to point B, right? It's not easy to get to point B, but if I'm disciplined enough, which I always try and raise with the discipline to go to achieve all the tasks in order to get to point B, that helps. So being disciplined also is very good. And two, being humble, yeah, it's very
mm,
important. Yeah, you need to be humble. Um, Sometimes you have to accept the fact that some people are smarter than you. Even if you are smart, accept that others are also smart as you are. And you can learn from anybody, no matter who the
mm,
person is, right? Because I've had opportunity to learn from a lot of the people that I taught umbrella. Typically, let's say purposely. I taught purposely in Black. That was like purpose was 2016. But I had opportunity to learn a lot from this guy, even during umbrella and after umbrella, right? So it doesn't matter who the person is, right? They have the opportunity to teach you stuff that can go a long way to help you, right? So just being that person that is always willing to learn. If you're always ready to learn, it doesn't matter where it comes from, you'll be willing to learn. Yeah, and for me, I think that's something that I would encourage all high school students to do, right? Just humble yourself, just preserve yourself, and just make sure that you are getting enough information for whoever it is, right? Yeah.
Now, it's WASI season again. You are somebody throughout the conversation, you've placed a lot of emphasis on hard work, commitment, being humble, right? Associations and all of that. What is your take on students resorting to Apple? Apple meaning that they go around sniffing around for the questions, not possible questions, the question paper itself, because sometimes by some strange reason, the question leaks. And some students are actually in the hunt looking for these questions because they want to succeed. And sometimes I understand them, they're nervous. For some of them, looking at where they are coming from, their parents are in poverty. They want to be that person who would take their parents out of them because they know that if they succeed in the WASI, they go to university, hopefully after that, get a job and help them. And they are anxious about not doing so well. And so for them, some of them may have wasted their time in high school. It's almost time to write the exam. And so they are in the hunt for the questions.
Yeah.
Now, what would be your advice? Do you think that they should accept their fate? I mean, and do what they can, work hard, genuinely, and pass the exam for fitting any form of Aboah, or you think that they should work hard, continue working hard, and also hunt for the Aboah?
Okay. So for me, that point is just no, no, right? So it's just out of the equation.
Mm,
The first question is, how did you get to this point? Right? The reason you're looking for a point is because you are not prepared. To because you're
yeah.
afraid they are going to fail, right?
Mm,
Um, and why are you not prepared? Because you had 3 years or 4 years to prepare for these exams, but you're not prepared. Um, it is your own decision to get to this point. And I think you should be ready to take responsibility that comes with it. You fail to prepare for these exams, you should be ready to fail, right? And I think that would be a lesson, right? So sometimes you just have to allow yourself to fail, right? You have to allow yourself to fail and to be a constant reminder to you that I actually did this thing and I failed. So at the back of your mind, you're never going to repeat that same thing again. But when you find a very sneaky way to go around it, you never learn your lesson,
yeah.
right? So I believe that if they're in desperate need to even pass, right, I will actually encourage for them to use these few days or these few weeks to work so hard. And whatever they get out is their genuine effort, right? And that's what they work hard for. But if they want to be the A student or whatsoever, they shall allow themselves to fail. There's no take. Okay. They can go back. There's always a chance, right, to right their wrongs. You have the chance again to sit back, now study harder and write it because he had opportunity and he didn't study, right? So we have to, I think it's very necessary that we start teaching people how to learn to take responsibilities of their action. Because
Yeah.
it's very important, right? So you don't learn, you should be ready to fail. There's no natural shot. That person I think is, so bright. That person can also fail, the person fails to learn. Right? And it happens a lot of times, right? There are a lot of times that I also sat in a donation room without knowing what to write, right? And because I didn't prepare, right? So there are times like that. And it doesn't mean that I should be asking or I should find a way to cheat. I'll probably just allow myself to fail. Maybe next time I'll pass, right? Constantly, I feel the exams, I want to pass the next exam. So I'll work so hard to pass the next exams. So the same way, they should learn to take responsibility, accept it that, okay, this is where they find themselves in, right? Because cheating might, because it might, it's a lot. It can lead to cancellation of paper. You can be banned. You can be arrested, right? If you look at the the odds, right, the disadvantages of cheating as against failing, I'll allow myself to fail and take
Yeah.
another chance on no deck, well prepared to pass, than to go in for a poll and I'll be caught. And I have to go through either being in prison, get my paper cancelled, and my social reputation being ruined because they'll publish you in the papers.
Yeah.
Right. So it's for me, it's not advisable at all for them to even go into it. But I'll say that they should work hard at this point. I know they're afraid that they want to fail, but it's all part of the journey. It's a
It
lesson
is.
that they'll learn. Yeah, it's a lesson that they're going to learn. But I mean, it's not too late to also seek for help from people. Probably instead of getting a D, you can get a C or a B because you try to put in the effort and other stuff, right? And sometimes because you're thinking of a poor, you end up not learning
Mm,
because you think there's an alternative. So
yeah.
you're trying to put in all the effort to get to that point, which is correct, instead of putting the effort to learn, right? But if you know there's no alternative, you're going to actually put in those hours that you are calling schools or testing people, waiting midnight for the question to learn those questions, which might not even come. Sometimes, even most times I'm not figuring out what, right? You spend those times learning and see what people you can write. And I think that will be a good thing for them to do, and they can pass if they do that. Yes.
Great, great, great. So finally, tell us about your work, what you actually do day to day, your specialty. So a day in the life of Assistant Professor Armstrong.
Yeah. So I'm a staff professor, and that's a civil engineering. I I specialize in computer vision or AI application in transportation. So basically, I do a lot of autonomous vehicle kind of research work, applying machine learning to intelligent transportation systems, or just trying to make transportation better in the world, right? Trying to convey people from say like one point to another safely. Um, so on a normal day, get to the office, I have students that I supervise, have some PhD students, and master students. So my duty is to make sure that I mentor them very well, do research work for them to be able to do independent research and come up with some good results in terms of publication and stuff. And two, I'm also involved in writing grants, which the school is concerned about bringing money to the school. So I write grants or work on bringing grants to the school, which I sponsor students from those grants to do either their master's or PhD. So they tend to work on the grants with me, which intend to pay their tuition or their stipends or while they are doing their graduate school. Yeah, and also take on some classes. I teach undergraduate classes and both undergraduate and graduate level classes. Yeah. So I think basically that's what I do. The entire week, right? Just that some days are just for research, other days I just teach or do some kind of research work here and a lot of meetings, basically.
So finally, what would you as a person want to be remembered by?
Hmm. Well, service to mankind.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, just
Wow.
somebody that's love to serve people and trying to be there for people and making sure that their life is better. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I am very impressed with you. I've seen you as a first year student in Achimota,
Yeah.
seen your growth. I mean, seeing how you've worked incredibly hard on yourself, on your schoolwork, and you are actually a very good human being as well. And I think for that, there are people who are academically bright, but they are not good human beings. They do not know how to live with people. They do not know how to relate to people. They think it's all about the book. But I think being a human being completes you as somebody who is bright, and being a human being, you
Yes.
are able to attract goodness towards yourself, and you're able to easily also spread it out to people.
Yes.
So all of us are proud of you. We are proud of where you have gotten to. We are wishing that
Yeah.
you go even higher and higher so that you can continue to serve a lot more people
Thank you.
in this life. Thank you. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for making time off your busy schedule to
Well,
speak with us.
yeah, thank you for having me as well, Alfred.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good.